Sometimes hurt doesn't just fade away, it stays with you. It shows up when you least expect it. You might be washing dishes and suddenly remember what they said. You might be scrolling your phone and see a photo that brings the pain rushing back. You might smile in public but cry alone because nobody really knows how deep it goes. This is where Lysa TerKeurst begins, by saying out loud what so many of us feel but rarely admit. Some wounds don't just go away with time. She paints a picture of unforgiveness not as a small thing, but as a heavy weight we drag through every single day. It's like carrying a backpack full of bricks, anger, betrayal, unanswered questions, and trying to live life as if nothing is wrong. It shows up in our relationships when we're quick to assume the worst. It shows up in our thoughts when we replay arguments over and over at 2 a.m. It even shows up in our bodies, tight shoulders, a racing heart, constant tension. Lysa doesn't rush past this reality. She says, yes, it really did hurt. Yes, it really was unfair. And yes, it still affects you. That validation matters because so many of us have been told to just get over it, or forgive and forget. But she argues that real forgiveness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means looking at what happened square in the face and deciding that it will no longer control who you are becoming. She also explains something most people confuse. Forgiveness and reconciliation are not the same thing. Imagine a friend you trusted lied to you or betrayed you. Forgiveness might mean you choose not to live bitter and angry every day. But that doesn't mean you have to let that person back into your inner circle. Trust has to be rebuilt over time. Forgiveness is something you can do today for your own peace, regardless of whether the other person ever apologizes. One of her most relatable examples is how she describes replaying moments in her head, trying to rewrite them. You may have done the same, thinking, if only I had said this, or why didn't I notice that sooner? That mental loop feels like control, but it only keeps you stuck. Lysa shares that she had to make a choice to stop letting those memories boss her around. Forgiveness was her way of telling her heart, we are not going to keep living there anymore. She also talks about bitterness and how it quietly spreads into other areas of life. Maybe you've noticed that you're more irritable than before, snapping at people who haven't done anything wrong. Or maybe you avoid certain places or people because they remind you of the hurt. This is the emotional tax of unforgiveness, and it can be exhausting. What makes this first part powerful is how gentle yet firm Lysa is. She doesn't minimize anyone's pain. She doesn't give a quick solution. Instead, she offers a new way of thinking. Forgiveness is not letting someone off the hook. It's letting yourself off the hook. It's setting down the heavy backpack so you can finally breathe. By the end of this section, the idea of forgiveness feels less like an impossible demand and more like an invitation to freedom. You can feel that this journey will not be easy, but it might just be worth it. It's about creating a life where the past no longer writes the script for your future. After helping us recognize the weight we've been carrying, Lysa moves into the next stage, actually facing the pain instead of burying it. Most of us don't want to sit with painful memories. We'd rather push them aside, distract ourselves, or stay busy. But she explains that what we don't process will always resurface. The emotions don't disappear just because we try to ignore them. They often come back louder, sometimes triggered by things that don't even seem connected. She invites readers to start naming what happened in detail. This can feel scary, because sometimes we would rather just leave the hurt blurry and distant. But naming it brings clarity. For example, instead of just saying, I'm mad at them, you might realize I felt betrayed when they lied about me at work, or I felt abandoned when they stopped answering my calls during the hardest time of my life. Putting words to the pain helps you see exactly what broke your heart. Lysa shares that when she first tried this, she realized she had a whole list of small and big moments that were shaping her reactions. She encourages readers to write these moments down, not to dwell on them, but to begin taking them out of the dark. You can't heal from what you won't face. This practice is not about blaming, it's about bringing the truth to light so it can be dealt with. One of the most relatable ideas she talks about here is emotional triggers. Maybe you've been in a situation where a song, a smell, or even a casual comment made your chest tighten and brought tears to your eyes. That's your brain remembering something unfinished. Those triggers are clues, showing you where healing is still needed. Instead of seeing them as weaknesses, Lysa suggests treating them as invitations to dig deeper and ask, what is this really connected to? She also speaks to the anger many of us feel. Anger can feel empowering. It can feel like a shield that keeps us safe. But over time, it turns into bitterness, and bitterness is heavy. She describes anger as a smoke alarm. It's meant to alert you that something is wrong, but you're not supposed to live with it blaring in the background forever. When you stay angry, it keeps you tied to the person or situation that hurt you. Another practical tool she offers is prayer, not just in a religious sense, but as a way to express honestly what you feel. If you're furious, say you're furious. If you're heartbroken, say you're heartbroken. Lysa shows that faith doesn't require you to pretend everything is fine. In fact, honesty is what opens the door to real healing. She also shares from her personal story of deep betrayal, describing how she would find herself replaying the hurt during ordinary moments, driving to the grocery store, folding laundry, or trying to sleep at night. She explains that she had to stop letting those memories rule her mood for the entire day. It wasn't instant. Some days she still felt overcome. But every time she named what hurt her and handed it over, sometimes with tears, she took back a little more control from the pain. This part of the book is all about giving yourself permission to feel and process rather than hide and harden. When you allow yourself to feel sadness, disappointment, even rage, you are not being weak, you are being honest, and that honesty becomes the first step toward release. By working through these steps, readers begin to notice a subtle but powerful shift. The hurt might still be there, but it starts to lose its grip. The memories may still surface, but they no longer control every thought. This section helps you realize that forgiveness is not forgetting. It is transforming the way those memories live inside you so that they no longer have the power to poison your present. Once the pain has been named and brought into the light, Lysa turns toward the hard but freeing work of actually releasing it. This is where many people get stuck because forgiveness feels unfair. It feels like saying what happened doesn't matter. But she makes it clear, forgiveness is not about erasing the wrong. It's about refusing to let the wrong keep wounding you over and over again. She uses the image of an open wound. If you never clean it, if you never treat it, it festers. It stays raw, easily irritated by even the smallest touch. But when you take the steps to clean and bandage it, healing begins. Forgiveness works like that cleansing. It's not painless, but it is the only way to stop carrying around an injury that keeps reopening. Lysa spends time debunking the myth that forgiving means trusting again immediately. This is an important point because many people fear that if they forgive, they will have to go back to the same relationship or situation that hurt them. Forgiveness is something you do within your own heart, whether or not the other person ever changes. Trust, she says, is earned, and sometimes it may never be rebuilt. You can forgive someone and still keep a healthy boundary if they are unsafe or unrepentant. She also highlights that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation is guaranteed. Reconciliation is a two-person job. It requires effort, accountability, and humility on both sides. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a one-person choice. You can choose to forgive even if the other person never takes responsibility. This is incredibly freeing because it means your peace does not depend on someone else's apology. One of the most powerful parts of this section is when Lysa talks about letting go of the need for revenge or for making the other person feel the pain they caused. That desire is natural. Most of us have imagined what we would say if we had the chance, or secretly hoped they would one day regret what they did. But that desire can keep us chained to them emotionally. She gently encourages readers to release that need for payback, not because what they did was okay, but because you deserve freedom. Carrying hatred only poisons you, not them. She also shares practical steps that helped her release bitterness. One is to write down the person's name and specifically what they did, and then pray or speak out loud. I forgive them for this. She admits it may need to be repeated many times before it feels real, but every repetition loosens the grip of resentment. Some readers may choose to journal about it, Some may pray, some may talk with a counselor or trusted friend. What matters is actively choosing to stop rehearsing the pain as a way of self-protection. Lysa acknowledges that sometimes the hurt is so deep that forgiveness feels impossible. In those moments, she encourages readers to start small, asking for the willingness to forgive, even if the feeling isn't there yet. Forgiveness is not an emotion that suddenly appears. It is a decision that comes first, and often the feelings catch up later. She also discusses what she calls false peace, when we try to keep everything calm on the outside, but we're boiling on the inside. We avoid hard conversations, we pretend we're fine, but the bitterness shows up eventually, maybe in passive-aggressive comments or in withdrawal from the relationship. Forgiveness is not fake peace. It is courageous honesty paired with a decision to release the offense. This section is deeply empowering because it shows that forgiveness is within your control. You may not be able to control what happened. You may not be able to make the other person apologize, but you can choose what to do with the pain. Choosing forgiveness does not make you weak. It makes you free. After the decision to forgive begins to take root, Lysa shifts to what might be the hardest part for many people: learning how to live after forgiveness. Letting go of the anger is only one piece of the journey. Now comes the process of putting healthy boundaries in place and rebuilding trust with yourself, with others, and maybe even with God. She explains that forgiveness does not mean you are obligated to give someone the same access to your life they had before. Think of your heart like a house. If someone broke in and caused damage, you might eventually forgive them, but you would still lock the doors, maybe even add a security system. Boundaries are not punishment, they are protection. They keep you from re-entering a cycle of harm. Lysa encourages readers to take inventory of their relationships and ask tough questions. Who can I trust with my heart? Who has proven they are safe? Where do I need to say no in order to stay healthy? She reminds us that saying no is not unloving. In fact, it can be one of the most loving things you do, for yourself and for the other person, because it stops enabling hurtful behavior. This section also dives into the process of rebuilding trust when it is possible. Trust is not rebuilt with words or promises. It is rebuilt with consistent actions over time. Lysa uses the image of a brick wall. Each small act of honesty or reliability is a brick that slowly rebuilds what was broken. There may be setbacks, and that's okay, but the process must be mutual. If the other person refuses to put in the work, it is not your job to carry the entire burden of reconciliation. Lysa also talks about learning to trust yourself again. When you've been deeply hurt, you might start doubting your own judgment. You might think, how did I not see this coming? Or, why did I let them treat me like that for so long? She encourages readers to be gentle with themselves and to see that learning and growth can come from even the most painful seasons. Instead of staying stuck in self-blame, you can use what you've learned to make wiser choices in the future. Another key theme here is emotional triggers. Even after you've forgiven, something can still remind you of the pain and bring up feelings you thought were gone. Lysa calls these sneaky reminders and says they are normal. The goal is not to eliminate every trigger, but to respond differently when they come. Instead of letting them ruin your whole day, you can take a deep breath, acknowledge the feeling, and remind yourself, I've already forgiven this. This does not get to control me anymore. She also invites readers to let go of shame for still struggling. Healing is not linear. Some days you may feel completely at peace, and other days you may cry again. Both are part of the process. The progress is not measured by never feeling pain again, but by how quickly you can find your way back to peace when pain surfaces. One of the most powerful sections here is when Lysa encourages readers to rediscover joy. When you've been living under the weight of bitterness or heartbreak, joy can feel foreign, even unsafe. She suggests starting small, making time for hobbies you love, connecting with supportive friends, even simply sitting outside and noticing beauty again. Choosing moments of joy is a way of telling yourself that you are allowed to live a beautiful life, even after what happened. This stage is where forgiveness starts to turn into freedom. It's no longer just about what you've let go of, It's about what you are now stepping into. Healthier boundaries, deeper wisdom, and a softer but stronger heart all become possible. The past may always be part of your story, but it no longer gets to be the author of your future. As the journey draws to a close, Lysa turns the focus fully toward the future. Forgiveness has cleared away the weight of bitterness, boundaries have been set, trust is slowly being rebuilt. But now it's time to decide what kind of life you want to create from here. This is where the work of healing turns into the work of dreaming again. She begins by acknowledging something that many readers feel but rarely say out loud. After deep pain, it can be hard to believe that a good life is still possible. You might wonder if you'll ever feel light again, or if your story will always carry a shadow. Lysa reminds us that the goal of forgiveness is not just to stop hurting, it is to start living fully again. The past may always be part of your story, but it does not get to define every chapter that follows. One of the key ideas in this section is creating space for new beginnings. When bitterness and anger fill up so much emotional space, there's very little room left for joy, love, or peace. Forgiveness makes room for those good things to come back in. Lysa encourages readers to notice the small moments of beauty that are already around them. A warm conversation with a friend, a sunset, a quiet morning where they can finally breathe. These moments are not just nice, they are evidence that life can still hold goodness. She also explores how to transform painful memories into sources of wisdom rather than constant triggers. Instead of letting the memory drag you backward, you can choose to look at it and say, "This shaped me, but it will not break me." In this way, the memory becomes a teacher, showing you what you value, what you will protect in the future, and how strong you have become. Lysa talks about finding purpose in pain, not by forcing meaning onto tragedy, but by noticing how it can deepen your compassion for others. People who have suffered deeply often have a special ability to sit with someone else's pain without rushing them. Your story can become a source of encouragement for others who are just beginning their own journey of forgiveness. She also spends time addressing faith and hope. For readers with spiritual backgrounds, she reminds them that forgiveness aligns them with the way of love, a way that brings peace, even when circumstances are still complicated. For those who struggle with faith, she simply offers hope. Hope that the pain won't always feel this sharp. Hope that joy can return. Hope that you can become whole again, even if the person who hurt you never changes. Importantly, she emphasizes that moving forward is not about becoming the same person you were before the hurt. You are changed, but change does not have to mean brokenness. It can mean growth. You may become wiser, more empathetic, more grounded. You may discover strengths you never knew you had. Forgiveness allows you to build a new life, not by erasing the old one, but by writing a new chapter with intention. The closing moments of the book feel like a deep breath after a long climb. Lysa invites readers to imagine a life where resentment no longer has a say in how they spend their days. She envisions a life with boundaries that protect your heart, relationships that are healthy and mutual, and a mind that is not constantly hijacked by old memories. This is not a distant dream. It is possible, one small decision at a time. By the final pages, forgiveness feels less like a mountain you're forced to climb, and more like a path toward freedom you get to walk. It's about reclaiming your peace, rebuilding your life, and believing that beauty is still possible, even after the hardest seasons. The book closes with a sense of hope that is both realistic and deeply comforting. The pain may always be a part of you, but so will the strength you found by facing it, forgiving it, and choosing a better future. Thank you for watching. Now go work on yourself.